I just got back from 4 days of camping last night, and so after 4 showers and trying to get all the soot and nastiness off of me, I packed this. I think I was swinging to the other end of the pendulum. So sparkle, shine. It's, I shouldn't say better than just soot, and I don't shower when I camp. I'm one of those campers that like, why get ready, right? So I am so honored to be here with you. I have a theory that friendships can save the world. I have a theory that primarily women's relationships can save the world. But if you had asked me last Thursday, a week ago, when I was driving in my car up to the Napa Valley, if I believed that, I would have been like, I don't give a damn about the rest of the world. Who cares if it saves the world? I care about myself, self-survival. I was driving across the Golden Gate Bridge last Thursday on my way to a 2-day women's retreat of a group of 5 of us. We had committed to getting together, and we talk on the phone every Thursday morning. It's a group of us that is decidedly committed to each other's businesses and growth and our involvement in the space of women and our speakers and our authors, which sounds so great in theory until one of them had the bright idea during this 2-day retreat when we're getting together to do business planning. We should all bring our profit and loss sheets and share them with each other. Well then, I'd rather strip naked in front of all of you. No joke. I'm happy to go to the naked Korean spa with anybody. You want me to print off my profit and loss sheet and show it to you? I'm sure for each of you, it's a different area of vulnerability. For some of you, no problem. Some of you, it might be dropping the veil of actually, what is your marriage looking like? For some of you, it might be stepping on the scale at Weight Watchers in front of everyone. For some of you, it might be actually telling somebody that you think you might have an addiction. For some of you, it's that coming out around something, around identity, around something you've been struggling with. I hope that I can say safely assume that I'm not the only one that knows what it feels like to be thrust into vulnerability and have all your insecurities flare up. Yeah. So I'm driving in the driver's seat across the Golden Gate Bridge, going to a women's retreat. I'm supposed to love these things. Yay! We love getting together. We love vulnerability. And next to me on the passenger side is that profit and loss sheet looking at me with 5 photocopies, like an obedient little girl. And I was singing Christina Perri, Roar. I am a champion. And the windows were down. And I kept trying to convince myself, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I had talked to one of my good girlfriends on the phone the day before, who happens to be here in the audience. Cher drove up from Portland to be here with me. And I was talking to her on the day before being like, my head tells me this is a very good thing to be doing. My head tells me that this is the right thing to do. This is a group that I've committed to. I'm in safety with them. I can be vulnerable. It's a good thing. I actually even know that good things are going to come from this. I know that we're going to be showing, we're not just doing it just to like laugh at each other. We're doing it in order to grow and point out where, how much are you spending on staff? Am I spending too much? Could I be spending less? Where are you spending? How much are you charging for speaking appointments? How's your book doing? It all sounds great in theory. In actuality, I'm roaring like Christina Perri, and my heart, it just wants to die. How many of you, testimony, how many of you know the feeling somewhere, somehow you have been sitting there and you know this is scary. This is scary. Yeah, scary. For me, finances are an area of weakness. It's an area of insecurity for me. It's an area of fear. It's an area of imposter syndrome. It's easy for somebody to look at my business and be like, oh, that's a great idea. That's phenomenal. What a great business market. And then it's another thing to actually be like, how much am I living on? Am I eating top ramen? Like, am I actually pulling this off? And there's a great thing about that thin line where you don't want to be faking it. Like, you want to be like, no, this is, that $30 you pay to kind of be a member here, like that just kind of goes to style. You kind of want to be open and honest, and yet you kind of want people to think it's going better than it is, So let's be real. Like, do I really want to sit down with 4 other women and show them and know and believe that mine is probably smaller than theirs? It's like the pissing party at the bathroom for guys. So I believe that friendships can save the world. I believe that women's relationships can save the world. In that moment, I only cared about saving my own ego. But as I was driving up there, I kept saying, I believe that women's relationships save the world. And by friendships, let me tell you what I believe that means. I believe it means that whenever 2 or 3 of us are gathered, there is God in the midst of them. I believe, there's a former preacher in me, you have to forgive that. The Christian scriptures say, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am. It's a sacred container. It's when we are together, when 2 or 3 of us are sitting down and connecting, that is where sacredness happens. That is where the divine shows up. That is the sacred container. That's the very place where I call it our spiritual gymnasiums. How many of you go to health clubs? Anyone? Seattle, you're all outside. That's fabulous. Health clubs are these places that people go to work out on these machines to try to make their bodies look like they're outside staying healthy all the time. I believe that our relationships are health clubs for the soul. I believe that it's when you and I are interacting and engaging with other people that is where we do the most work on our spirituality and on our personal growth. I call it the health club for my emotional growth. That is the sacred container where I show up and do the hard work of growing myself up. Because it's only in my relationships with the women that I am choosing to be in relationship with. And some of you might be familiar with my 5 circles of connectedness. I know I've got a few Girlfriend Circles members here and people who have made friends, and yay, you made me so happy coming up and telling me that. So there's 5 circles of friendship. And on the far left is the most casual, and on the far right is the most intimate. I call it frientimacy for friendship intimacy, because it's different than romantic intimacy, but there's intimacy nonetheless that we're searching for. And no matter which circle there is, there's different levels of growth that have to take place at all different levels of that growth. And so in some cases, on the far right with our deep friends, that's where I practice forgiveness, even when it hurts. That's where I practice serving even when I'm tired and busy. That's when I practice saying no, because I know if I can say no to you, I'll do a better job of showing up and saying no when I need to tomorrow to somebody else. That's where I practice cheering for you even when I'm jealous. And this group of women I was driving to, they're women I've been jealous of. So how I'm going to practice, I kept saying to myself, I'm going to practice cheering for them. Yay, you all beat me by 6 digits in your P&L last month. Good for you. I was going to practice cheering for them, knowing that was where my soul was going to do my growth. That is where we get to practice the people we want to be. I have a theory that friendships, and namely women's relationships, because those children of ours, those husbands and those partners of ours and those parents of ours and those siblings of ours are very important relationships as well. All healthy relationships are important for our well-being, but women's relationships are different. They do not, the research continues to show that in those family relationships, your highs might be higher, but your lows are lower. With your friendships, you're not laying in bed trying to figure out what you need to pack for their lunch tomorrow. You're hopefully not setting up their dentist appointment. You're hopefully not worried about how they're getting along with all the other people in their lives. There's so much stress, obligation, and guilt that go with so many of our relationships in our families and in our friendships. Those are relationships where we get the benefits of showing up and interacting and practicing love without some of the lows that happen to bring a lot of stress and cortisol into our bodies. So we get a lot more of the oxytocin with a little bit less of the cortisol. So those women's relationships, super important, very important. I believe that friendships can save the world. And by save, let me tell you what I mean. In the Christian scriptures, there's a verse where there are lots of verses where they come and we have often misunderstood the word save. We think it has something to do with salvation and another life. To save in Greek means to make complete or to bring wholeness. Wouldn't that be amazing if the church understood that definition of save? That would be a whole different saving of the world the church could be about. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? Women's relationships can save the world. This is the place where we are bringing wholeness and health to ourselves and to each other. Let me share with you some of the research around women's relationships primarily. I mentioned the oxytocin. This very room, if you could see it, if it had a color of a hue above you, you would just see purple smoke above you. And you would have seen it get thicker and thicker and darker tonight as we were being here. We all walked in, we had nerves, we had cortisol, we were wondering, am I wearing the right thing? No. Are we, none of you wore sequins. I'm like, what? Am I wearing the right thing? Do I really know anybody else? I mean, is this the right choice of my time? We all walked in with the cortisol, with the stress, and we walked in and we wondered that. And as each speaker got up here, I saw the purple come up. I saw the oxytocin happen. When we start connecting, when we share, when we talk about what are we emerging, that's oxytocin, and that oxytocin is powerful to your body. They're showing, actually, they're able to do brain scan images now, where they're actually being able to shock you in the MRI. I'm not sure who signs up for these studies. You're laying in the MRI machine, and they're actually kind of intermittently shocking you, and you don't know when it's going to happen. And so they're trying to take pictures of your brain on stress and kind of recognize it's not high stress. It's just kind of the stress they were trying to reduce, kind of create what we do go through life, just kind of never knowing when the next little shock is going to happen. And all these red parts of the brain light up when the cortisol is coming into your brain. They do the exact same test, except this time you're holding your hand outside of the machine and holding the hand of a friend. This time, they keep shocking you. 1/3 red lights up in the brain. Friendship saves your life. It does not stop the shocks from coming. It buffers you from the shocks and the stress that are coming. It actually protects your life. You have the number one thing for anybody who's been diagnosed with breast cancer. They followed them to find out what are the factors that make the biggest difference between women who survive that diagnosis and the women who don't. Whether they're married, do they have kids, how much money they have, are they working out, are they eating organic, are they smoking? Number one factor, do they have a circle of supportive friends? For those of us who feel disconnected, it is doing the equivalent of damage on our bodies as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Twice as harmful on our bodies as being obese, and does the equivalent. They can see the damage of the body done for being a lifelong alcoholic. And you think about those other areas that we give so much attention to. Smoking, I mean, there's like laws against it. There's campaigns, there's government funding going into it. When was the last time you saw a billboard that said, make a friend, save your life? You cannot come in this restaurant without a friend. Like, that would be fabulous. That's like, does more for your health. One doctor was quoted saying, if I had a patient who was disconnected and smoking and I had to choose which one would make the biggest difference, I'd say, go make that friend. Friendship can save your life. It can make you whole. It can help bring that healing, that completeness. I have a theory that friendships can save the world. And by the world, I mean the world. I mean the world. I mean the world. I have a theory that friendships can save the world because here's what I know. When I practice talking to my friend about how I'm nervous about something, and she tells me to go out in this world and do it anyway, that motivates me. You know that feeling. And when I practice saying no, even when I'm scared it's going to disappoint her, I'm able to turn around and do that and give somebody else permission to do that too. And I know that when I have a friend who sits there and says, I'm jealous of you, but I still really want you to succeed. I cannot walk to wait. I have one girlfriend who's always saying to me, I can't wait to just carry your dress along the red carpet behind you. And I'm always like, well, I want to do that for you. And so we have these beliefs that I don't have to go through this world wondering if I'm too successful, am I going to lose my friends? No. We are committed to that. And I'm practicing shining in front of my friends. We practice saying what we're good at. We practice being able to say, I went up and I worked that stage. I did it. I showed up. And I don't need to be shy about it. I don't need to be, I can tell you, I can show you my profit and loss and we're all even, but there's good things I do. I do some things that are really beautiful and some things that aren't. And if I can show up with my friends and practice being both of those things, the shining, bright, beautiful, bold, brave, strong presence in this world who has a message and is convicted till kingdom come. And if I can show up in that and own that without having to get small, then there's a higher likelihood that I'm going to be able to do my work in this world without worrying about the critics and the other people who are pushing me down. And if I can show up in front of my friends and be like, this is where I am not pulling it together. I am scared to death. I don't even know what to do with this part of me. This is not working out. then I have a much higher likelihood of healing, bringing awareness, showing grace, practicing presence, and doing the things that I need to do to show up in this world with more wholeness, with more completeness. I have a theory that friendships can save this world, namely women's relationships. We get to practice being with each other, even in casual ways tonight. This is sacred. This is magical. This is God. In my opinion, this is where the juice is happening. And it also happens in our one-on-ones with people that we're really choosing to be intimate with and vulnerable with. We get to show up and we get to practice being the people that this world needs. Because I'll tell you what, I used to be a pastor, and I will still to this day, I did. You all laughed. Yeah, okay. This is a better fit for me. I used to be a pastor, and I used to say to my congregation, and I believe it to this day, I don't care how long you read your Bible. I don't care how many hours you're on your knees praying. I don't care if in the other traditions, I don't care if you're an ashram. I don't care what sacred things you're reading. If it is not making you a more loving person, I question whether it's working. Your spiritual practices are all about whether you're becoming a more loving person. And the only way we can know that is when you're in relationship. This is the spiritual work of our day, ladies. This is where it happens. We can sit there and go to therapy. We can do personal growth, up the yin yang. We can read every single book. We can meditate on whatever you want to meditate on. If you cannot show up and interact with me with less competition, with more joy, with more peace, with more ability to cheer each other on, then I question the growth happening in your life. My prayer when my relationships is that from this year to last year, can I ask myself, do I forgive more quickly? Have I practiced that? Can I love more quickly with people? Am I still judging at first impressions? Am I showing up with less of a need to judge impulsively? Am I showing more compassion, like true empathy? Have I practiced that in my relationships where I can honestly say, I feel the capacity for feeling what other people are feeling is getting bigger. It's larger. I can feel that growth happening. My friendships are the spiritual gymnasium where I go to work out. Is it fun all the time? Is it fun to print off my profit and loss sheets? No. But when was training for a marathon ever fun? We don't do it because we're like, I love running. I mean, you might now, but you didn't the first few times, I assure you. We don't go to the gym because every single part of it we love. We don't think it's amazing to be sore the next day. We don't think it's awesome to be breaking our muscles down, but we do it because we know it's good for us in the long run. And women's relationships, we have far too many women pulling away when they should be leaning in. We have far too many women not initiating because they're afraid of rejection. We have far too many women who are saying, that's just awkward, so I don't know how to talk about that or ask for what I need. So she's toxic. That's my favorite one. Yeah, anybody that's awkward with us, she's toxic. We have all these people who are using every excuse to lean away from women's relationships. And do you know that 80% of us don't even have more than one person we call a confidant in our lives? 80% of us. One of my other keynotes is called The Epidemic of Unacknowledged Loneliness. We are far too lonely. Women, girlfriends, tonight, I want to invite you to lean in when it gets awkward, to initiate even if they did last time, to be willing to be vulnerable in whatever way that's appropriate for the next step of your relationships, to invite one more person to circle around you, to find the tribe that will lift you up, to find the group that will sit around with those profit and loss sheets and cheer you on. We sat there and we handed those babies out, and I could feel myself being like, I didn't want to look at all the numbers. I knew I was going to compare and be like, I'm the lowest. You know what? We went around that circle and we said, what is one thing each of us wants to celebrate when we look at our profit and loss sheet? And what's one thing each of us wants to keep doing that's working really well? And what's one area we can each change? And I will tell you what, numbers did not matter We all had areas we wanted to celebrate, and we all had things we were doing well, and we all had areas we wanted to change. It humanized it. It equalized us. And it changed the way I'm going to do my business. I am going to be a better person because of showing up in that circle. Women's relationships save our lives, literally. Women's relationships save our lives to build us up so we can change the world. I believe that women's relationships can save the world. And I'd like to leave you with this blessing. May every woman in this room and all the relationships that she has in her life right now, may you find joy. May you find growth. May you find love. May you find intimacy. May you seek for it and never stop looking, because those who seek find. And that's my prayer for you tonight. Women, change the world together. Feminism is a team sport.